great, fantastic thing. Spurs won a game of football, and we've put everything else on our lives on hold to come here, so we can't be accused of just turning up when the ambulances arrive. So without further ado, I watched the game. I'm very pleased to say I enjoyed it, and I've got a secret fun fact of the day to throw at you in respect of the tactics or the tic-tacs, depending on which part of Australia you learn to play football in, mate. But gentlemen, which one of you wants to lead us off with your thoughts on what was a tremendous win and takes us through to the second leg at Anfield in 4 weeks' time?
Go on, Tony, lead the way. Go on.
Okay, I'll go. Okay.
Good, Tony. Go, Shane. Go, Miss Shane.
I think we're going to have to call this the positive special rather than the usual shit show.
Why do you speak so negatively about the coverage? I don't understand.
I have this tablet I've just taken. It was a great game. First of all, it was a really good game of football to watch. Mm-hmm. Really enjoyable, and that was a hell of an effort by the lads. That was a hell of an effort by the lads, because there were times where we looked good. There were times where we were hanging on a little bit, especially when Alexander-Arnold came on, and he really started to place some balls in. But some great defending. I just can't. I really came up there genuinely for first time in quite a long time. Genuinely, really, really chuffed for the team and for the boys. Really,
very good.
Really,
and Chris, did your mountain move?
My mountain did rumble, and as per Tony's comments, that's what we've been asking for a number of weeks now. We didn't have the fullbacks inverted. We didn't have the midfield running all over the show. They were relatively tight, relatively secure to the back four, and we just seem to have a lot more maturity about us. But equally, I think we've got to give a big shout out to Archie Gray, who I thought was exceptional at the back.
Yeah.
I thought Bergvall, who we started the season all questioning, but over the last 5 or 6 games, we've all collectively agreed there's potentially something there. I think 19 on his next birthday.
I disagree with Bergvall just quickly, because we must not nip disinformation in the bud. I thought everybody liked Bergvall initially, and then kind of wondered what was happening. He kind of went off the ball, and I felt it wasn't him. I felt it was the predicament.
I thought he was good. I thought Jed Spence was probably my man of the match. I thought he kept Salah very, very quiet, playing in an unfamiliar left-back position. And I think after 74, 79 minutes, we've probably resigned Vicario to the fact that he's likely to be a number 2 keeper moving forward, because that lad that we signed from Slavia Prague, we were all questioning how good a player he was going to be for such a modest transfer fee, but he did nothing in that opening 90 minutes to make you think, oh, what have we got here? If anything, when the ball came to his feet, he got rid of it most effectively and very quickly.
Apart from occasion, there was one occasion where he was a little bit squeaky bum, but apart from that, I think, I agree. I think he was. I didn't see him coming, in the terms of how good he was.
I thought the new guy was great. I will say, as a caveat, because I'm misery incarnate, but I'm pragmatic. That's what I would describe myself as. I would say that it was great, but it was one game. I didn't think Liverpool were particularly excellent. They made, and I've just got a note here, which is a little bit boring, but they made two defensive substitutions and replaced players who were okay with players who weren't even any better. But that's just an in-match performance-based thing that we probably don't want to get too het up about. But I thought Liverpool were there was a part of me that felt that they were kind of waiting to go back to Anfield, and this was the right phrase, not coping mechanism, but this was something that they felt like they were going to be a bit more under siege than they fancied. And I've got to say that all of the plaudits that have come in from fans in respect of players really playing for whatever, playing for Ange, playing for the shirt, playing for the badge, playing for the whatever. There was no question that these guys really wanted it, were very much involved. And frequently we criticise Spurs and say, well, the difference between those two teams was the fact that the other guys wanted to do what we did. And I thought they really stood up and made themselves counted. Lucas Bergvall's goal, there's conversations about the free kick. Guess what? I don't care. I don't care. It wasn't given. It wasn't given. And I am like a thief in the night. I have no morals when it comes to football anymore. They've gone. They've been trampled, thrashed out of me as a much younger man. And it wasn't called. They didn't get it. Nothing was disallowed. And I thought it was a sensational goal. It was a nice, simple goal as well. If you watch that, and I managed to, because I'm a bungler, I managed to lose one of those, I don't know what they are, those clips that you get from, it's a YouTube short or some that Chinese thing.
I've got to say,
TikTok. Sorry, my thing with TikTok is that there's a disproportionate amount of videos of small kids, which I really don't want online under any circumstances, and it's an app I just don't use. And I think that's how I've managed to mislay this thing. But there was a fantastic, it was a bit of slow-mo, but it was a really pure clip taken from the fans behind our goal. So you could kind of higher up, probably the south stand where you're normally throwing yourself from in despair, Chris. But the goal, it was beautifully weighted passes. What Solanke did was exceptional. People talk about the hold-up play. I think they're being a little bit generous sometimes. I thought he did absolutely nailed it on that occasion, and the boy just came in and did he put it where he needed to go. It was really, really enjoyable. But one thing I wanted to share with you, or ask you, because this is a bit of a trap, so passing, that always tells me lots about the game, or occasionally it can tell me lots about the game. Do you think we saw Ange ball last night, or do you think that there was some moderation in the Tora tactics?
I think we refined the approach. I think there was a adjustment of the tactics, and that sort of game last night absolutely suited Dragusin, who I've been very critical of over recent weeks. When you're not asking him to try and be Johan Cruyff or Franz Beckenbauer and playing out from the back, and when you're asking him to do what a man's asked to do, and that's defend with honour, he was absolutely head and shoulders. But yeah,
courage and honour. I think that's exactly what we saw from
put everything on the line last night. And alongside Gray, you had Jota, you had Salah,
Jota was naff. Jota had a terrible game, and that was because of us, I think.
And then they brought them off and brought Darwin Núñez on. So through the 90 minutes, they had 4 players very capable and able, but you wouldn't have realised because our centre backs were magnificent throughout the whole 97 minutes of play. So I think they did adjust their tactics, and wasn't there.
I agree, because there wasn't that much of the high press that we've seen previously, and the back line was a little bit further back than it normally is as well.
Would you like me to give you the reason I asked you that question?
Oh, it's a loaded question.
Yeah, the loaded question. Passes Tottenham 377, Liverpool 565. Now, ordinarily, and this is one of the observations that I made when we were watching Ange ball in those first 10 games, is that we were absolutely obsessed with having the ball, short passes, fizz, all that nonsense, and that's gone out the window. But Liverpool bossed the possession, but that was never really the issue with Ange. With Ange, it was the volume of passing that went on. And our passing went right up to 500-600, in excess of that in that first sort of 10-game period of this first season, or last season. But 377, that's kind of like thoughtful passing based upon what we achieved and what we didn't concede, etc.
And with Kinski as well, when you look at the passing that he from his feet, and like 30-40 yard passes that were going more or less, they were going straight to the player, not going off in some random direction or going out of play.
Yeah, his passing accuracy was excellent, and I would say that. And again, I have to say, because that's me, and it's the way I talk and the way I think. It was one game.
Yeah.
And for those of you who are still swathing your house in bunting and cheering and drinking beer and dancing and cartwheeling, you still have to go up to Anfield. Otherwise, it counts for naught, because I'm not one of those guys that sits and watch the reruns of the Ajax hat-trick as if it meant something. Yes, it was great to be on the end of on the evening, but as a memorable event that had historical meaning, unfortunately, We went to the final and we got beat. It was one of the worst finals I've ever watched in my entire life, as far as being a Tottenham fan.
If I could just go back to Kinski, there was loads of comments and people voicing outrage that Brandon Austin wasn't playing last night after his performance of the weekend. But my view on that was that he's been at the club 15 years and about 7 different managers have never afforded him the opportunity to be a first choice keeper. So we were never going to spend 16, 17 million on a new guy without the intention being for him to chase Vicario. Had Brandon Austin been something, would have never been bringing in this guy. So I think that was the right selection from the outset.
I agree with you. I personally think that you can't just pick and choose your facts. You can't say, oh, Brandon Austin was amazing in one performance, and then totally ignore that he's been there under 17 different managers and the other, all the data that basically has said that people have passed him over for a reason, which I don't think we saw a lot of in that particular cameo, if you want to call it that. But the only thing I would say is this Kinski guy. Yes, he had a very seamless, polished first game. Equally, I would, respectfully draw the court's attention to Eric Dyer scored in both of his 2 opening games for Spurs and looked like Steve Austin, the $6 million man. But that didn't last. If this lasts, and I pray it does, hallelujah. But I think picking Kinski over Austin was a no-brainer based upon the fact that there was a lot of goodwill surrounding Kinski's last club and his time there, his performances, Whereas with Austin, we had one game where fans were very ooey about it because he did what he did, and Fraser Forster shouldn't be on the flipping premises. Well, that's the reality. That's the real thing in the room.
If you want to be sentimental, you'd say Tamworth away at the weekend. That's a game that you could throw Austin in with relative confidence and ease that we shouldn't really be coming a cropper there. If they want to give him some time, then they can be rotating the 3 keepers to see who number 1 is. But Forster and Whiteman should be seeing the door in the summer. Thank you, move on, and whatever will be.
I think I would say, without being unkind to the guy, that surely the jig is up for Austin, because we see a guy come in who isn't a ton of money, and I know I'm boring, and I'm always like, oh, that looks great. How much did it cost? I mean, if it's a T-shirt, that's fine. This T-shirt, I don't tell you how inexpensive it was, but the reality is you can go out and buy a black T-shirt, and £5 or whatever up to 500. Whereas with a goalkeeper, you tell me it costs 15 million euro or whatever it was, I'm immediately like, couldn't you have got a good one? Because that's the way the world works, Whereas with a T-shirt, you throw it away, you go out and buy another one.
I can see us replicating the same situation as across North London, where Ramsdale was the number 1 at Arsenal. They bought in Raya, and then Ramsdale ended up leaving the club. It wouldn't surprise me, having started with Vicario, we brought in this new guy who's younger, seems more capable with the ball at his feet. If sooner rather than later Vicario gets a bit tired of sitting on the bench and he could be gone in the future himself.
Well, I just, like I say, I've been singularly unimpressed with Vicario. I think he's a good goalkeeper. Like the use of the language there, good. And one would hope that we hire good goalkeepers, but I don't think he's a tremendously wonderful individual. And I would be fascinated to see how he reacts. It's like that old sort of play school thing on the report card, does not mix well with others. Does he mix well with others? Because, and this again, here he comes again, but it goes back to the infantilization that we have to suffer as supporters from the media, both internal and external of the club. Well, you're a bit of a legend, Vicario. No, been here the season and a bit, and quite frankly, we concede, we're hemorrhaging goals frequently when your name has been on the sheet. Everybody wants to make you feel comfortable and at home and loved, but you don't go into cherished and revered status within such a short period of time. So I would like to see, I think this is a great opportunity for these two to kind of thrash it out. It's like that scene in the Batman film, where he snaps the porky apart due to rapid expansion. We're recruiting, and throws the stick bits down on the floor. And being a big fan of the way that a certain political leader in the 1940s, sending two men to do a job normally gets you the right answer. It doesn't create the best working environment, but it does normally supply the right answer.
The only negative for me, again, would be at times it felt like we were playing with 9 men last night. So, again, Son was fairly anonymous on the left-hand side. And then during the unfortunate and thankfully nothing too sinister injury to Bentancur, we ended up bringing Johnson on early doors.
I would raise my hand at this point, and there's nothing worse than somebody who brings real-life experience to a discussion. It's like, oh no, there was a car crash. He was in a car crash the other week. Oh no, he's going to tell us about, having had a seizure recently, having seen the CCTV footage of me having a seizure recently, and having spoken to people, and I didn't understand the situation, which I won't completely bore people with, but it's an unusual thing. I've never had one before. I've never seen anybody have one before. And basically, there was an electronic failure in my body, which nobody's particularly sure what caused it. Might have been stress. But there was a period, and the guy that witnessed me going wrong, I kind of saw it on Bentancur's face from one of the TV angles, one of the video angles, where he was sort of like that. And his face wasn't dropping completely on what I saw, but he had this kind of unnatural look on his face. And his brain was still telling him that he was a footballer and there was a ball coming, and he went for the header, which he kind of missed or muffed or whatever. And then he just collapsed. We were ring doorbell. If anybody's ordered anything, it's here now and available for good reception. But he looked to me, and the fact that he recovered so quickly, because what happened to him, he was absolutely out cold. And it looks to me as if he had some type of seizure. People talk about stroke. I was curious if it was a stroke or not. Apparently there was an aspect where you could see on the video that his face had dropped. But that's not what happened. And he recovered far too quickly. After I'd had my seizure, within 10 minutes, once I kind of shook my head and walked and obviously wiped all the vomit off of myself. But he hadn't been drinking. This didn't happen in a public house. This happened to a sportsman who was probably drinking water full of electrolytes and all the rest of it. And my conclusion, and it's just as a barroom GP, is that he had some class of seizure similar to the one that I had, just simply because of the way he conducted himself physically, and then he recovered so promptly afterwards. It was about the same time period, but I appreciate that's just me having a guess.
Just to fact check that, probably important to say you had 15 pints of lager and cider, and they probably contributed to your demise a little bit, fella.
Well, I tell you, I mean, I also omitted from the story that the what they'd done was some of the strippers in the thing collapsed. That was part of the problem. The human sort of structure that we were in the process of building. That went a little awry. So, yeah.
So what you're trying to say is your electrolytes were slightly out of balance.
My electrolytes were enormously distracted. No, I mean, I was in a bar with 5 people, and thank goodness, one guy who saw me going wrong actually did so through an internal mirror and phoned an ambulance. And another guy who was as big as you, Chris, I mean, a really big guy, he shot round the corner of the bar and caught me as I was about to hit the floor. So those two acted as swiftly as you want. So if you're ever out, kids, at the risk of moral imitation, and you think something's going wrong with somebody, don't stand there and watch it pass you by. If you see an opportunity to leap in, it might be that you get there and they're okay. They were just pulling a funny face or there's some sort of spasm. But those two people acted so promptly, and certainly the one that caught me. Otherwise, we might not be having such a charming conversation. I might be speaking through one of those sort of Stephen King voice boxes. Today's
public announcement brought to you by Preparation H.
Yeah, but don't prepare to fail, kids. Don't prepare to fail. But yeah, I hope Bentancur as well. I would imagine that they will throw him into the physio room and get him tested severely. But he looked fine afterwards, and I think we've subsequently seen a picture of him with his missus. And
I'm sure we'd all be fine with a girlfriend like that.
Well, there you go. It's the life in your woman, as they say. But yeah, no. So that's tremendous. It was a horrible thing, though, and I'm just pleased it wasn't anything worse. It sounds a bit banal to say, but you have to, otherwise people get very emotional. So where do we go from here? And I know it's a terrible thing to say. We're 20 minutes in, but we've got to go to Anfield, and we have been in the front line. We've been in the vanguard of the zeitgeist on this, telling people that sure, can't wait to get these players back. But we weren't playing well when we did have them back.
Well,
and apparently Mickey and Romero are likely to be probable for consideration for the return leg.
We've got a lot of football to play before the return leg at Anfield, though. We got the FA Cup game Sunday, which shouldn't be a problem, but then we got the North London derby next Wednesday, and then we have got who is it? We're away to Everton on the Sunday, and that's a massive game at the moment because of the precarious position both clubs find themselves in. And then we've got Leicester the following Sunday before the return game at Liverpool in a month's time. So we've really got a. It's like anything, isn't it? If we don't push forward and use this result as a little bit of a firework to launch us onto bigger and better things, then it's all for nothing. If we return to our recent league form, then whoopee, it was a result effectively at half time of a fixture. So we've really got to try and bring a few more bodies through the door, take advantage of those returning from illness and injury, and we've got to try and push on because we are too close to the bottom as opposed to close to the top 4 or 5. So we've really got to grind out some results and see where the season takes us.
Yeah, we want to avoid Man City syndrome, don't we?
Yeah.
That's the thing we've got to avoid here. We've got to avoid that kind of that. Yes, it was great that we beat Man City, but look at the run of results afterwards. You know, it all sort of started to get horribly wrong, and it'd be great if we could avoid that and actually go to and have a game at Arsenal where I think Arsenal and Everton actually, if we play a very similar team to what we're playing now, is going to be a great way of actually showing, does this actually really work, or was that just a one-off?
Yeah. I mean, the one-off sort of quotient for me, I'm just unsettled by the whole thing. Yes, I'm pleased. Of course, I enjoyed it. It made such a change to be watching a game and not tell people that I wanted to self-harm after 15 minutes, and then question every damn thing that Tubby got up to during the run of the game. Yeah, that was great, but like I say, this is the second season. We're over Christmas. And we've seen some shocking results that tell us that there are no easy games. There are no safe ties.
It looked like we had a plan, though, last night. It actually looked like we had a plan. It looked like
this is the
players knew
point
what they were doing.
This is the point I was making with the passing, because the passing reveals all in this instance. Because 377 passes, that is massively down on where we have been, and certainly where we were, where Ange ball was a recognisable kind of tangible thing. And I mean, I don't have the other numbers in front of me, but I guarantee you, if we look at the last dozen games that we've played, there isn't a lot of a footprint there. There isn't any evidence to support, well, this is classic Ange ball or whatever. I mean, we get fed these snapshot pictures of all the players in a line, showing how high the push is of Spurs. But again, they don't really tell us anything because it's a photo. It's a flashpoint in an existence, and you can't argue against a much bigger drama backdrop just because you've got a photograph of something that you just managed to catch everybody. It doesn't work like that. But I would like to think that something. Well, let's put it into simple language. That a penny has dropped within the paucity of intellectual footballing geniuses that we have in our technical area. Because
I looked at
this suggests to me a penny did drop.
I'd like to take this claim now, H. I looked at LinkedIn at the weekend, and my recent message to Scott Munn had gone from pending to his face at the bottom of the message, so he's clearly received it and he must have read it.
Oh, so So yes, last night was down to you. Well done. That's it. What can we say, mate? You know.
Hang on.
Power to the people.
Tony, you were so much quicker than me because my brain doesn't work like that to give people credit out of nowhere. But you knew exactly what the ambulance chaser here was up to.
What do you think you were sort of hinting at it for?
Yeah, this is exactly it. So his face next to your words.
Yeah, it
it's
means
like,
that he's
and there's
read it.
God's
Yeah,
and there's God's ear.
Yeah.
Well, on behalf of the fan base and everybody else in Western Europe, I'd like to thank you personally for last night's result.
That's okay. Yeah.
And now we've revealed who was the enfant terrible behind this dramatic change in Postecoglou's fortunes. But of course, if things go back to revert to, oh no, there's the poop has hit the rotating blade thing next week or whatever, we will have to withdraw the thanks that we have just gifted you on this occasion.
I've got to say, the recent activities of a near London club in West Ham must have got some attention in the boardroom, that they have sacked their manager less than 6 months into the new season. So Lopetegui came in, and their reasons for sacking him were brilliant. That the on-field performances didn't match what the expectation was at the beginning of the season. So there's a club who have brought somebody in. They're thinking, no, he's not working for us. Let's get rid of him.
Yeah.
Yet for some reason, Ange has afforded so much time and opportunity.
No. Sorry, no. I must police the way we talk about this situation. Ange is in the in control of his own existence. He's at the same point in life as a scratch card. There's not a lot of talent behind this. The reason that West Ham were able to look at a situation like a grow-up and say, this isn't working, we need to take steps in order to alter this, blah, 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 is because when they phone somebody and I say, oh, hello, it's West Ham, we're looking for a new coach because we've gone and bungled it, governor. They haven't had that call 27 times before. You haven't got the same list of tired faces like Brendan Rodgers. There's the Spanish waiter from Liverpool and all those other characters. Tottenham's reputation in the recruitment market for a first team coach could not be lower if you paid somebody to make it look lower. Household name coaches came here, didn't work, broke down live on television and were sacked, in pretty disreputable circumstances, simply because Daniel Levy doesn't know what he's doing. But West Ham haven't done that to thousands of people. They might have had a few boo-boos over the years, but generally speaking, you know what you get with West Ham. All right, it's West Ham Football Club here. You know all the limitations, but you're getting a big stadium, you've got some decent money coming through the doors. It's the London Stadium. It's all that rubbish that everybody else is involved in, including us, and they're doing okay. They're doing fine, and they've won silverware that's worth a damn more than we have.
What was really interesting after the game as well, considering that one of the candidates that we wanted who rejected us was coaching in the opposite team last night, was his response to the in the after game presser. I just thought he came across as incredibly thoughtful, articulate, knowledgeable, responsible. Yeah, I know, he had a wobbly on the pitch, and of course everybody does. It's a passionate game. I get that. We all get that.
Yeah.
But afterwards, when he'd settled down and when he was there, he wasn't speaking nonsense. He wasn't doing what Fergie used to do, or Arsene Wenger was even better at doing, which I never saw he kept in. He actually addressed the questions, gave thoughtful, intelligent responses.
He came across as a football man.
Absolutely, 100%.
And there was no, and as you say, there was no petulance there. Yes, he had a wobble during the game, but guess what? That's the workplace.
Yeah,
we're likely to see things fall from shelves, and people file complaints for this, that, and the other. It's a workplace. There will be work. There will be activity. Some of those activities you will not particularly warm to. But he's entitled to do all of that. I don't mind. What we didn't get, and I would throw into the mix here, is we didn't get a Klopp performance where he then came out and continued the pantomime in front of the cameras, which I know certain scousers really get off on that, and it really it's like a kind of pornography to them. that they can see somebody who is as agitated and as shortchanged as they are. But normal people, dare I say, like us, just go, oh, just wind it in. I'm not watching the rest of this. Because we've seen the dancing around and the pointing and the screaming and all the rest of it, and have no time for it. And it's like the thing with the Lucas Bergvall incidents or whatever. Don't care, didn't get called, didn't get flagged, didn't happen. And then Arne Slot comes out and he speaks eloquently, speaks in an informed and impassioned way. And yeah, I think he's the one that got away for Spurs. To be honest, I mean, you just look at him. You see people getting married, and you think, oh, there's bridesmaids, but perhaps made for a better photograph. And I just look at him, and that's what I see. I see us with this. I won't be unkind because people lose their mind over hurty words, but I see us with this rather sorry-looking bridesmaid, and then we see this rather hot Dutch guy over Liverpool.
I guarantee you he won't. I guarantee you he won't put up with the sort of levels of rubbish that we saw from Bissouma last night.
Yeah.
But the guy he is kind of like, he's now becoming rapidly into Timo-esque territory. The guy's a liability on the pitch now. He really is.
That's why we need to still push forward with the recruitment in January and get a decent number 6, because if you've got the solid spine with the decent number 6 now, seemingly a goalkeeper who might have something about him, if we can get our 2 centre-halves back fully fit and running, then you've got that strength through the middle. But we've just got an out-and-out central midfielder, defensive-minded central midfielder.
I just have to issue my standard reply. Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I couldn't, agree with you more. But Daniel Lee was involved. So yes, we got this goalkeeper who looks on the strength of one game, in which everybody played well. For us, it was clearly a team thing. There was a real mindset. We've seen that there was a shift. I don't know if it's a paradigm shift, but we've seen a notable shift in the tactics with the business of how many times we're going to touch the ball before we try and put it at the back of the net. The game is a lot more watchable as a result, I would argue. But when we go to the market in January, which historically, not my opinion, but historically is not good, is the presence of Daniel Levy going to aid us? I would suggest over 25 years of business, it will not. It will hinder us. But I hope, like the goalkeeper, and I hope numerous other bits and pieces that come through, hopefully this new data-driven thing with Lang is producing some gold.
Well, of course it has. In the last 24 hours, we've announced Paris Baguette lingerie. You've just been totally ungrateful or something.
I tell you what, that killed me because I looked at
fanboys just don't realise how well you've got it.
Well, I tell you something. If you're worried about having a seizure from my earlier remarks, let me also tell you, as a man my age, that some of the ingredients that Paris Baguette company use,
I'm more worried about eating one of my Labradors next time I visit the stadium.
Yes, there was a frosty exchange in our WhatsApp group where somebody made a crack about a lab flavoured baguette, and Chris reminded us all very sternly about the breed of
no doubt, H, though, you must be incredibly happy that the bottom of the web page can now be expanded.
Yeah, I was a bit worried there was a bit of a gap there.
Yeah.
But just back to that Paris Baguette thing, the thing that came to my eye, because obviously I put the name of the company and you get Dong CEO, Mr. Wong Dong Jai Doi, or whatever. And I thought, all right, he doesn't sound very Parisian, dare I say, even in these multicultural and integrated times in which we live. And then I looked at it, and basically the business is very successful, don't get me wrong, but it's not very authentic. It's kind of what the people in Korea like. And I know there's national differences in tastes. For example, in Germany, I think the number one selling crisp flavour is paprika, which you have to struggle to find in Polish shops in this country because we all like cheese and onion. So I understand that palates change across the world, and they, like a good few nations we could mention, have a penchant for this particularly sweetened pastry products. And you see the photos of the stuff, and it looks very delicious and very, I'll have some of that. but I don't know if you'd want to really kind of live on it.
So in some of the WhatsApp groups we're members of, people are waking up saying, "Why not?"
Which the police are currently navigating.
Yeah. Well, the Labour Party are about to imprison us all, but they were going, "Why on earth have we sent out a club update at midnight?" I was thinking, come on, if you can't see it, you're blind. We announced it at 9 o'clock South Korean time in the morning. So we are reaching out, not for 100%. Our loyal, hard-working, week in, week out football fans. We are launching it for our tourists and the Asian economy and the Asian market, who are going to be those people flocking into the stadium
and anybody else
£29 a time for a lingerie baguette.
And anybody else who doesn't have a risk of diabetes in their medical history.
I'm just hoping that the sponsor, the new sponsor, they put a picture of a baguette on the shorts and it looks like they're all running around with their dicks out.
Tony, I'm slightly concerned that you've just used some technology, which is probably, I just presume you're a Scientologist, where you got inside my brain, because I just had an image of a baguette, half a baguette, on a pair of shorts. And I thought, no, I won't go down that route, because it's even for us, it's base and unnecessary. And there you go, just like a tele printer.
How about Big Son and Little Son, each standing one end of a baguette, nibbling it until they meet in the middle?
And then they could do the Lady and the Tramp thing and kiss.
Yeah,
because that would solidify so much messaging that we've only set.
And make Matty Hayes very happy.
That would give Matt Hayes a baguette of his own.
Yeah. I just think it's typical of you to be so hypocritical about how base we are.
Do you mean not be appreciative of how base we are?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'll tell you what. We'll see how the Tamworth fans react to the threat of. Are we at Tamworth?
Yeah. Well, on the 3G AstroTurf of Tamworth.
Yeah.
Well, there we go. If you can't get more of a 3G product than those candy floss flavoured baguettes that they're selling. They had little they were sort of like baked bao buns, which I think I gained weight just looking at the photo, because they looked like they wanted to like some of that squirty cream. Do you remember the ones you used to get at the bakers with a little cherry on the top? They just look so sugary. But each their own.
Not with a proper cream either, with that really horrible artificial cream. You know.
I think the word you're struggling for though is faux cream. Which some extremely wealthy fat people use to shave with.
Excuse me, mate. When I was a kid, we called it artificial cream.
Artificial. Yes, we've got new line of faux creams, which are also known as artificial.
Yeah.
But so that I thought that was the upbeat piece of the news of the window, really. To be honest.
So you can't totally dismiss this transfer window. We've brought in a goalkeeper. We've signed a deal with a major food franchise. What more do you expect?
A major food franchise that is probably has to be investigated depending on which part of the world they're selling their products in.
What else did I see coming out of our press office that made me laugh for one moment yesterday? Where is it? I think I can find it somewhere. Did we announce our dog of the matches or something yesterday?
There was a dog of the match, and I tell you how this club has affected me. There isn't a thing in life that I have more time for than dogs. There really isn't. They're better than people. They're better than me. They're better than everything. And then they wheel out, and the dog of the week or whatever is so and so. I just look at it and I don't feel anything. Just look at it and I feel nothing. No contempt, but I just don't go, oh. There's nothing. There's no emotion runs through me. They may as well show me a
tweeted yesterday. Tonight's dogs of the match are Billy and Charlie. Billy is a rescue dog who loves a walk in the country. His best friend Charlie sadly passed away recently after 16 long and happy years.
I felt nothing, mate.
So there you go.
Yeah, I mean, rescue dogs. That's me. That's me gone. The moment you say, "Oh, that's a rescue dog," I'm completely gone.
You're just that young mongrel in the gutter that some young poor filly took advantage of.
What the hell? Did you see that clip last night as well with the
Gigs in Spain.
Did you see that YouTube? Was it on Instagram? There was that thing with the with all the mascots all lining up, and Van Dijk goes past and they go, "Oh, can you come and play for us?"
We need a decent player.
Oh, brilliant.
Out of the mouths of babes, as they say, you know.
Straight into God's lug hole.
I see Redknapp redeemed himself with us forever again yesterday.
I missed that.
Jamie Redknapp was showing his continued love for Tottenham, wasn't he, in his assessment of Ange's coaching abilities.
What did he say? For those of us that missed this historic moment of football,
that he wouldn't enjoy playing for Ange, that his tactics are questionable, and that you concede far too many goals.
Yeah,
but it was the poison and the vengeance that he delivered that with.
Yeah, well, what he's doing there, of course, is I mean, even if Jamie Redknapp told me something sensational about myself, I would find problems with it because he's degenerate of the highest order, or the lowest order, as the case may be. But what he's doing there is Redknapp always chooses his targets very carefully. Never says anything that's off the cuff or sort of unscripted or spontaneously. It's always weighed up to whether it will come back and haunt him. And people like Kostas Tsimikas come back and haunt him. That's the reality of that, in my opinion. I could be wrong. But we've all seen the shortfalls in Kostas tactical contributions to world football, which is why he's so fondly remembered in Japan.
Well, somebody said, well, there was when somebody on one of the forums I was looking at saying about Redknapp, you know, going overboard about Spurs and going aboard. He was saying he played for Liverpool, didn't he? Well, he did play for Spurs. I was saying allegedly he played for Spurs. He turned up.
He was in that point when we were shit and we just attracted very average, very mediocre players.
Would it be terribly unkind of me and sort of shooting a wounded pigeon here to say, was he not one of the players that wore a pony shirt?
Possibly, yeah.
I think he was that era of dullness where that pony shirt saw us, you know, sort of.
Pony has so many different meanings now, doesn't it?
Well, that's fine. I'm not labouring the pony and trap thing, but it's just his era at Tottenham is only a few steps up the food chain from Jamie O'Hara's. To be blunt, he was a cultured player. He was a decent footballer. But unfortunately, with everything to do with him, it's eclipsed by the fact he's just such a miserable human being. I can't say what I want to, because otherwise I'd be getting a knock on the door from the policia.
Just don't lay into Rowan Ricketts next, or I'll never forgive you.
So sounds like something you wouldn't want to come back from holiday with. So we've got no easy games. We've got Tamworth, which I think a lot of people are perhaps rightly wrongly getting their undergarments entangled. Arsenal, who could collapse. They could give us a Man City moment. They've got a Man City moment in them, it would appear. But Everton and Leicester City. This for me is like Bournemouth and other sort of teams that you think, well, yeah, we should, you know, just nick a 1-0 there. But I don't know if we will. I just don't know if we will. What are your thoughts on these games? Do you think there's any fun coming down the line?
I've got to say generally the Premiership's pretty poor this season. The standard's pretty low, with everybody being capable of beating anybody. There's no real runaway team. Even Liverpool, what are they, 5 points clear, 6 points clear? But
they don't thundering.
They don't look great like Man City have in previous seasons.
No.
And Arsenal could implode at any moment. We mentioned Bournemouth, how well they're doing, but in the space of the last week, they've lost the Brazilian centre forward they signed, and then the Turkish centre forward. So they've lost 2 strikers. You've got we could win all of them. We could win some of them, or quite easily we could lose all of them. It's a gamble, but I would expect us. My expectation would be that we are good enough to beat Everton away, as they just can't score for toffee.
I've said this season. I've always been
toffee men.
Yeah, get that. Thank you. But I always felt that there was a bit of a thing about the Premier League. It was like, oh, it's the best division in the world. Well, actually, no, it isn't. It's a very tough division, very physically demanding, technically demanding even. But you look at the sort of the horses that come further down the pack, and they're frequently indistinguishable from each other. I think this season we've seen that creep further up the charts, and the top 10 is no longer the reserve of the elite. And the top 10, there's probably 5 teams in there that are going to be hopefully in the mix, opposed to definitely.
Well, you look at Chelsea, started off the season on fire. We're in second place. People talking about them being outside shots of the title. Last 5 games, they've dropped points galore, haven't they?
Yeah,
and
and
they've suddenly found their feet.
No, notably so. There's been nobody, like you say, the only side that have shown any real guts, to speak of, have been Liverpool, and they haven't been utterly convincing. But I think, in respect of last night's game, they will very much be of a mind that will come back to our place, and we'll see how we get on. Because I think we're in for a different kind of game.
I know they're associated to you through one of your friends, Tony, but I've really enjoyed watching Ipswich play. I think that Liam Delap up front, I'll take him every day of the week. I think he's a real handful.
Yeah, definitely. He's a big lad, and he's also got a really good engine on him as well. He just keeps going and going and going and going. So yeah, I think Ipswich have got enough to stay up. I think they've got enough to stay up, but it's going to be tight.
I'd like them to stay up just because they're a bit of a curveball. There's teams as ever in the Premier League who've been haunting around for some time, and we wouldn't be lesser off if they went down.
Well, Southampton, the traditional yo-yo team, they're down already. That bloke's come in, he's lost every game. It's who joins them down there. So it just brings it back to the standard of football in the league this season isn't great.
And of course, it was the Saints manager got to just shoehorn again, who spent most of his last presses telling everybody how wonderful Postecoglou was.
Yeah.
I just wondered
if you'd like to just step through this door, sir, there's some rotating blades and
Did you say rotating knives?
There's a rotating blade and a chute you'd expect in a Bond film.
Yeah, did you expect to slaughter our tenants?
Here we are, mate.
Yeah, well, I think the Chelsea, interestingly, when you mentioned that, Chris, that smacks to me as a new manager bounce that's ended.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's peculiar, and we have to acknowledge this because it goes back in. We've been keeping with the situation at Tottenham. That a lot of supporters who tell you, "Oh yeah, I've been going around for 100 years," don't spot stuff like this. A new manager bounces. It wasn't a phrase that we coined 3 weeks ago. This is something that's been going on since the beginning of time. And these guys come in, and like you get the example like with the West Ham guy where he never catches up. There's just clearly some communication problem or whatever you want to call it.
But on the flip side, you look how well we've spoken about before. But Nuno watched Forest on Monday night. Who did they beat? Wolverhampton Wanderers.
Yeah,
every
one of those players knew exactly what was expected of them. They knew how they would go play, and you've got some underappreciated players there. That Morgan Gibbs-White walks into our midfield. He's an exceptional player. They had that Ola, the fullback, who I'm sure he played at Reading once upon a time, but he looked absolutely brilliant. And then the 2 centre-backs, at Murillo, the Brazilian, and then the Milenkovic, the Serbian, at about 6'5" or something. They've probably got one of the strongest pairings in the Premiership there.
The thing I like about Nottingham Forest is the fact that this is Gareth Southgate ball working.
Yeah.
Whereby you're instructing people across a range of ability, but they're all doing their job. So you're getting a 7 or 8 out of 10 performance from a guy who's perhaps naturally a 5 or a 6. And that's the difference to me that Nuno's pulling it off. And he's doing so because he's allowing the creativity to thrive. And so Forest are great to watch as a neutral.
Maybe they'll qualify for the Champions League next season and come cap in hand begging to take Brennan Johnson back for 45 million.
Drop him off for free. I mean, honestly, when he scores, it's a moment of wonder. You know, I don't mean there's any wonder in how the hell did that happen, but it's a lovely thing to see. But the reality is that's very few and far between. But he's got 10 goals or whatever. Somebody
11.
Screamed.
Yeah.
11.
Yeah.
But and it's got nothing to do with colour before anybody chimes in. But I'm getting massive Dele Alli vibes.
And that
because
no,
I just don't see.
Dele Alli was a player and a half in his first 2 or 3 seasons.
He was going in the right direction, but we didn't get enough from it. And nobody, I don't know whether it's bravery or stupidity, but nobody else has ever said that about it. But we never got enough from it. We got excellence from him on numerous occasions, but never quite enough, in my opinion. But then my standards are high, perhaps ridiculously so. But yeah, I just never felt we quite got enough of the good stuff.
And going back to the initial point earlier, last night, Timo Werner comes off the bench again. And you're thinking, as long as he's got 2 legs, he's never going to be a footballer. You just give in. Every time he gets the ball, he won't run at his man. He can't cross the football. He can't shoot. You're thinking, oh.
The trouble is, you have conversations where people discuss this, be it online or on whatever, and they're making stuff up. Oh, he's in a bad run of form. No, the line on his graph goes from kind of he hit mediocre, and then the line is now going like this. That's not hitting a bad run of form. This is an elderly player, which is what he is, who doesn't want, whose team that own him don't want him back.
And he's on 175 grand a week.
Ooh. Which is tremendous money for somebody who can't play football.
Can you imagine what Archie Gray will do when he's actually playing in his right position?
Oh, mate, he'll be a really good prospect. You think he's 18 years of age. He's played, 23 games and been asked to fill in at left centre back. Last night, he was so composed with his bringing the ball out, distribution of it. He wasn't flustered at all, was he? And that's why we've got to give him time as that defensive central midfielder. I bet in the next 18 months he's called up into the senior England team.
Yeah, I think last night.
I think that's an easy prediction.
Yeah. What was really good about last night as well with that back line was what you didn't see was an awful lot of passes along the back line. It was forward.
And nothing across the box.
Nothing across the box. It was all forward. And I guess the best way to turn the defence back towards their goal is to go forward. And that was what was really pleasing last night. We weren't playing these suicide balls across the defence. The defender gets caught in possession, bang, it's in the net. It was forward.
Don't like it, Upham, Tony. Remember that.
But do you think that because just put it into basic terms there. I'm going to keep going back to it because it makes the most sense about anything tactical or data driven I've seen after this game. But 377 passes, that's at least 200 fewer passes than one would normally expect from an Ange side. Could it be that the pinch has come there at the back of the pitch, at the back in the 18-yard box, and instead of dicking about, for want of more sophisticated language, they've actually kept the thing moving and going in that direction towards the opponent's goal?
This is where I think Romero coming back might actually be a hindrance.
Yeah.
Because he has this habit of grabbing hold of the ball, spending 5 minutes or like strolling around with it.
Yeah, slowing down play and then doing something predictable.
Yeah, and last night we didn't do that. It was quick, it was incisive, it was decisive, it was everything you want to see. Quick-minded, quick football from players who seemed to know what they were doing, and they had a plan for it. And I only hope this is some sort of watershed moment because we all want, regardless of all the things that we've said, we all want Spurs to do well, and we all want a trophy, we all want to win, and we all want to see great football in the process. Absolutely. So if this is a watershed moment where we can start eating a little bit of humble pie later on down the line, great, I'm all for that, totally 100% for that. But as you said, we've got to caution, as good as it was last night, we've just got to caution it a little bit by saying, do it against Arsenal, do it against Everton, do it against Liverpool again, etc. Or at least approximations of that where you've actually done quite well. You may not have won, but you can see, that there is something happening. Great.
We've been our own worst enemies in recent weeks. Like when we went 1-0 up after 4 minutes against Newcastle, then we conceded possession on the edge of the area where Bergvall gave the ball away, or Destiny Doggies had brain farts in the past and given the ball away, or the keepers tried to be clever and lose the ball. So, or the amount of times Basuma's given away the ball in midfield this season. So when we try and overcomplicate, when we try and be smart asses, we're our own worst enemy. Where we keep it simple, it works. And that's why, and when was it? Romero, when he was coming back from injury against, was it Man City when him and Van der Ven both got injured and he tried to back heel it or do a cross turn or something and ended up injuring himself. That was unnecessary, wasn't needed. Keep it simple, stupid, and you're okay.
You beat me to it there with a big kiss off. But you're right. You're absolutely right. I mean, you are. And if they trimmed the fat from those defensive passes, which were incredibly frustrating because it wasn't something we showed any panache at. It was always something that ended up being a, oh no, look away now, man. And if we've trimmed the fat from the passing by getting the ball out and into play and into the midfield, and as you say, if we've got better passing, better distribution from this new goalkeeper, and those are things that have penetrated the Antipodean skull, and hopefully he's going to then say, well, we'll do that again, because that's what a decent businessman does. He sees something that happened by chance or whatever, and says, well, we'll definitely try and coerce that into happening.
If you,
all well and good.
If you look at the base of the midfield sitting in front of the two centre halves, if we had a player with the capability of a Tommy Huddleston or a Michael Carrick, who we could give the ball to as like the quarterback and put the ball up front, we'd be laughing. But we haven't got that player in that team with the range of passing in their locker. We've got Sarr, who's an athlete, he'll run all day. We've got Basuma, who's mentally defective and brain dead, who gives the ball away at every opportunity. We've got Bentancur, who, what does he really offer you? I'm not sure if he's the offensive player. I'm not sure if he's the defensive player. He's sort of a hybrid in the middle. And we've got an 18-year-old finding his feet who scored last night, who could go on to be a really, really good player.
I like Bentancur, right, for no particular reason. He's just a player, a human being. I have a sense of warmth around. But to me, he's like a futon.
Yeah.
He's an unsatisfactory sofa and an unsatisfactory bed. You don't get one of those things gives you a good night's sleep, and the other one's quite cool to watch TV with. Neither of the things that a futon does is any good unless you're a student or you haven't lived much of a life, and quite frankly, you'd have sex a cat litter tray, if it was available to you. You know, that's the reality. But you see, again, that's a coaching thing. That's something that a coach would turn around and say, right, we need to meld this guy into being something that can be defined. Because at the moment, he's quite punchy, he's quite attack dog minded when he wants to be. And equally, he does some nice passing. But we don't get consistency from anything. It's very much a lucky bag of a player. But of course, if you mention that to some Tottenham fans, they get very, very emotional, and they just think he's wonderful and you're being nasty, which is why I kind of trailed it on with the seizure thing, because I think that's what I saw, and I hope he's better. And as I am, hopefully no long term repercussion type stuff coming out of that.
Well, effective football is about. We get all these stats where the game, especially when you watch live games, they come up with all sorts of stats. This thing about the last 10 minutes you've done this and you've done that. So what? Who cares? You can see that. You don't need a stat to be told that. You can see that happening. In the same way that VAR and as you know me, as a grassroots ref who does youth football and stuff like that, and until recently did adult football, I don't care about that announcement. And if it comes up on the screen that says offside, that's it. Move on. Job done.
It's about how you deliver it, Tone, and I can't wait for you to be there with your microphone in display going, offside, number 6.
Get out of there, mister!
and you have the decibel level coming up on all the screens and everything like that.
And you start twerking and doing a little bit of a jig.
Yeah.
You beat me to it. I was just going to say, I hope they get the uniform with the skirt length is sufficiently long enough for when he starts to move. Otherwise, this could degenerate into something that nobody wants beaming into their home.
No doubt. It'll all go all very American. It won't be a penalty anymore. It'll be a PK and all this sort of stuff. All this nonsense. Offside will be offside. He was siding off.
Do you know what? Football was so much simpler before you had expected goals and all this nonsense.
It's just
what a load of old toss.
All that leaves me so cold. It just leaves me absolutely cold. There's only one. Yes, you can see a lot of things in some data and some things, but there's only one stat that ever really counts, and it's like, did you score more goals than the other team?
Yeah, who
and
won?
And as I said to you before, if you're going up the high road and you nip in somewhere to get a point, that's the part of the historical background of you saying to your mate, Hoddle didn't deserve to be on the losing side today. and you go, yeah, you're right, mate, blah, blah, and then you move on. And that's where the historical value is in the ether, in the pub, as those words dissipate, like a sort of Sherlock Holmes update movie thing in the air. Yeah, there's no inherent value in sitting there, as I said, showing somebody a photograph of players on their arm and saying, well, that shows you just how pressing we were. Yeah, we were for the time it takes to take a photograph. Of course it does, but you don't get anything more out of it.
I don't care.
It's ridiculous.
The thing is about offside, I'm still seeing it now. It's they're going, oh well, it was only just offside. Well, no, it's a binary decision. It's offside. End of. Move on, shall we? Can we just get on with it now?
Dare I say, it's a bit like, are you a girl or a boy? It's a very, very, very easy.
Whoa, time out.
Has been cold in the mornings.
Right, I think we're going to disappoint some of our viewers here. I don't feel like being sweary and ranty because we won. We played very well, and it was an enjoyable game.
We want to leave this on a positive. We started on a positive. We were generally positive. Let's stay positive.
Otherwise, we're just going to dig stuff out of the archive to beat people to death with, and I'm not sure
what you remember. What you do in life echoes in eternity. And
if you're, what was it? If you can't see it or whatever, you're dead and you're already there. I can't remember the line he comes out with. I'm looking forward to seeing the sequel of that.
It's not supposed to be great, I've heard. Bit sort of, bit wokey, bit not really gladiatorial, bloodthirst and.
I just like Denzel Washington. It's tough for me to see something that he's.
You're never going to beat the Equaliser in truth, are you?
Absolutely stunning stuff, mate.
You can't walk in a hardware shop without getting flashbacks now.
He's getting a little bit creaky these days, like our own South Korean.
Aren't we all?
I was very jealous of him retiring to that little town in Italy because I thought, I'll have some of that, please.
I was going to say that a nice drop of coffee in one of those little piazza things that do me a world of good. I tell you. I
need to find out that trick. He does that trick with the thumb, on the wrist, where he did the median nerve and this all like incapacitated him. I need to know how to do that trick.
Well, the really super cool watch he has when he's counting down how many seconds it took him to wipe out a room of 18 Kosovans or whatever.
Russian mafiosa in
that
the
watch. That watch doesn't exist. They actually overlaid the turquoise. I was people switching off in droves here, but they actually overlaid that turquoise glow in the dark thing. That watch does exist, but it doesn't have that functionality. So you can't go out and buy the Equaliser watch. We can, but it isn't turquoise.
I thought I recognised it as a 15 quid one on Temu.
Well, I hate to break it to you, but I do understand. I think either Temu would do a DHgate, do the ultimate knockoff, but whether it would even arrive being able to tell the time is another matter entirely.
Temu, not to be confused with Timo.
Yeah, but will you ever get a Paris Boulangerie baguette on Temu? No, you won't.
No.
Will you ever find one in your lap? That's the question for next week. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everybody, boys and girls. Remember, if you like it, hit like. If you want more of it, hit subscribe. And if you don't want any more of it, you want to make it stop, don't bother us. Just stop watching. That's it for now. Good luck. Keep it on. And good.
Well, my upload is showing at 99%.
Yeah, that's because you're in a place where grown-ups are.
What, the prison?
I'm already completed, Mr. 99%, as is Antonio. And there we go. So I shall get this up as soon as possible. I'm not doing anything else. Give this my full attention.